Meet AJ, a mental health practitioner, a driving force behind men's mental health, a poet, and overall artist. Most importantly, someone who loves God. Today we sat down breaking down his experience as a Christian therapist. He talked about the guideline of practicing Christianity in mental health industry. We went through the development of mental health awareness in a society.
Like we didn't even realize that, like if you're looking at like something like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, love and belonging is on there. It's not a want, it's a need.
Men's pressure.
That is the one thing about like the future. We've already trying to live in it when the present is happening now. I think there was a period of my life where I was really like, again, this is from prophecies, this is from own desires.
How church can effectively implement mental health department to help the congregation.
I think the third one is actually like confidentiality, like, and respecting like people's boundaries and respecting people's information and data, because I think growing up in church, that it's the one space that you should feel safe.
Yes. Here we like to talk about philosophy, science, technology, most importantly, God. So if you're new and you want to discover new concept, new topic, please give us a like and subscribe. Without further ado, I really appreciate your time. So thank you very much for, saving time off your busy schedule, waking up in the morning, and then making time and coming to. So again, thank you very much. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, no, first of all, appreciate you for having me. My name is Adrian John. Most people know me as AJ Articulates. Everything you said, yeah, childhood God, love poetry, love spoken word, love music, and then I love people. So that's why I'm an education mental health practitioner. So I work for the NHS, but I also do like some public speaking on the side, do some workshops with like charities and with some companies as well over the last years. And yeah, just a guy that loves God and loves his family, people type. And for
Nah, I really rate your skills, because I've seen you taking couple of man. I was like, right, I can. Now, obviously, as a man, sometimes we're always thinking, yeah, I can take him, but if I'm on the field, maybe I might not be able to start.
yeah, let's get on the field.
With that being said, I'm always curious to understand people's decision in terms of the profession, because there's always a reason why they get into what they do. Yeah. So my question would be, why become a therapist? No, I'm very fascinated about people like you, that your way of thinking. Why therapists? Why?
I actually answered this question to a friend recently, and it's so layered. I think on one level, as you know, so I played football, and when I got released, they just sent me a letter. So I was at Brentford when I was 15, but they just sent me a letter. It wasn't a conversation. Wait, I was actually kicking ball, like, go, yeah. And I was at Brentford for like, oh wow, I think 4 months. Yeah. So I was close.
Yeah, that was a serious faller then. It's not like being involved. I tell people that I got hamstring problem, and that's like,
I had knee injuries, but yeah. So that was an unfortunate ending, and I actually had nobody to support me in that time. Like my family were there, but there wasn't really a conversation thing. So I had to work through that by myself. I had to build myself up again. And I was thinking, like, I don't want anyone else to go through this. So that well-being type of support was one area that was always important to me. Also, like growing up watching Disney Channel, hearing like Americans always talk about psychology.
Yeah.
I guess that sparked an interest, and just loving how people think, because everybody's from a different space, a different walk of life, but like we all have this perspective and perception of who we are in our minds, and that's always interested me. My granddad's a clinical psychologist, my mom's a nurse, so I've had that, I guess, that caring nature for people. Yeah. And as I said at the beginning, I love people. I believe like a lot of my purpose is about like encouraging, educating, and just supporting like the community around me and showing love. And I think therapy is one way I can do that.
Okay. Because when I was thinking about it, like to be a therapist, it has to be someone that really cares about people. Because, well, I care about people, but I don't think to an extent, because you get to a point that you're very intimate with, in a sense that the level of conversation, people are very vulnerable to you. So you have to have the heart to, care for people and to to a point that to help them to that set. So we were talking earlier, like, I can see that you have a really good relationship with your dad, and some of the videos I've seen you doing with your dad's Instagram, and it was relating for your mom. So how was your upbringing, in sense that obviously you said your mom and dad kind of were in a kind of similar field. So how was your upbringing in terms of, growing up?
So my dad's an accountant. It was my granddad that's a clinical psychologist. But even with that, like, I guess I got like the best of both worlds in regards to like my mom being quite like nurturing, loving, caring. My dad, like, I would say our relationship really improved when I went to university, actually. I think it's so funny that as you become a man, like, you understand like what men have been through, and like just giving him more of a space to even talk and like give me wisdom, and actually asking him questions rather than just like every day wake up, oh, good morning. Like, there was no real depth. I gambled at university. I used to gamble, sky bet, like football, like quite deep, not to a point where I was actually losing money, but like it was consuming me. And I remember I spoke, like, as I came to Crest after like there was one service we went to, and I came home and I literally just called my parents and told them what I was doing. And you would think like African parents, that they are going to get onto you, they will shout at you, but honestly, the first thing they said, "Are you okay?" Okay. And then they came to the uni the next day to check on me. And I think that was like the ultimate sign of love for me, because it wasn't a thing where there was shame attached to it, guilt attached to it, where I was demonized for it or even insulted for it. It was like, you're my son, I'm going to check in on you. And I think that really helped our relationship. And like, since then, I've been able to just speak to him about like life, what I'm going through, whether it's relationships, finances, my next step, like within my job and things of that nature. So yeah, growing up, they were there and they worked very hard, but I felt the love in my house.
Would you say a key moment was that time when you expressed yourself to your dad to open another, kind of relationship between you and your parent? Because, well, from what I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, prior to that, your relationship with your dad was good, but it wasn't, or your parents was good, but it wasn't to a point that you can express yourself to that level, being really vulnerable and allowing yourself to tell them something which is quite unusual for African parents to react that way.
Honestly.
Because when you look at African parents, their way of, correcting you or trying to put you back online is very aggressive. At least the Western will say that.
Okay.
Very, stern. Yeah, stern love. And for them to act that way, would you say that your dad perhaps maybe had to evaluate his relationship, maybe notice something that's led him to react that way, or your parents?
I would say I just put them in a position where they could show love in a different way. I think growing up, I was quite well behaved. I didn't really get in trouble with that and that. And I think I used to think because my dad used to take me everywhere in regards to football, karate, swimming, like, so especially with football, because I was good, it's like, I felt like my value or position with him was related to my performance level in that regard, whether it was academic or on the football field. So just like navigating that aspect, I think, was potentially difficult. But then I reached a stage where I understood, like, the love wasn't conditional. It wasn't based on whether I was doing very well at uni or very well at school or very well on the pitch. It was just,
I think I have this question, but I wanted to move on to another one. But would you say that relationship with your dad kind of also had an impact on the way that you look God, in a sense?
Well, I've never been asked that question. I would say potentially, because it's like God's love is unconditional. Like, we are not saved by our works, but we're saved through like grace and faith. So it's like, I guess probably at the earlier levels of my walk, definitely, because it's like I have to prove myself to God. I have to say, look, God, I've stopped drinking, I've stopped having that, like, I stopped, like, come and love me. But you already did love me.
Yeah.
It's the same way, like, I hadn't technically I've like slowed down on the gambling and made the decision that I wasn't going to when I went to my parents. But even if I was in that state, I still would have, gone.
Yeah, it's very interesting because, well, I'm yet to be a parent, but I think sometimes parents undervalue the impact or the influence they can have to the children regarding the relationship to God. Because, in Exodus, the Bible talks about, if I'm correct, God is basically parents as a figure of God on earth. Like sometimes the way that your parents may treat you can also reflect in how you see God. Yeah. That's why I asked you that question, because the image or the way your mother or your parents, treat you can definitely put a separation in how you look at God. Because I was watching an interview, and it was this girl who was struggling really to build a relationship with God because of the way her dad, the relationship between their dad. So I find it quite very fascinating. But with that being said,
Very good. That's just touching that.
yeah, of course, of course.
Like that has just opened my eyes to something. Like, why is there a lack of men in church? And is it because they lack relationship with their father already, their earthly father? Is it because they're not used to communicating with their earthly father again? As I said, a lot of men's conversations are surface level. There is no like real depth to it. Or are they not even used to being submissive under another man? And like yes, like the fear that we have to our fathers, is it the same fear that we have with the Lord? Like just
Really. About not like being told what to do, you said that in church, a lot of men are like someone to submit to.
Hmm.
I can, you should talk about my own life. My dad left, there was the divorce. My parent divorced when I was around 14. Okay, not around 14, 16. But I feel like I wasn't affected, okay, in the sense as a lot of men are affected, because once your dad is out of the home, it can have a natural impact on you, because you don't have a dad figure or someone to show you how to navigate through life, through puberty, and how to your first job. And there's so many things, conversation you can't have with your parents or your mother. As much as I love mom, there's certain things that I just can't have a talk with her, and she can't understand that, to a point that I can be vulnerable, but you also need a male figure. But I think one thing personally helped me, because I grew up in a church where that I've seen men, and my pastor who was there took the position of a father. A lot of pastors take they get abused and falsely accused of so many things, but he took the role of a father and really helped me and advised me, took from a providing some financial provided for me, mentally was there, prayer. So I really thank God, because that position allowed me to not be influenced by the outside noises in terms of going to do certain things, and maybe I might end up in a gang or whatever. So I think men are very important to influence the next generation, mentally, because men need men. We definitely need men. We need men in that sense. Yeah. So about, I was quite curious. Also, I'm looking at the evolution of therapies and also mental health awareness for the past 10 years. What do you think has put society in a way that we are so aware of this? I mean, it's so promoted and pushed in a way that we had considering something, in a work field, in the churches, in maybe just in our surrounding. What do you think has led us to this point?
so many things. You could look simply at the past 5 years, COVID, for example, and that removal of community. Like we didn't even realize that. Like if you're looking at like something like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, love and belonging is on there. It's not a want, it's a need. So like in the past 5 years alone, COVID and that, like it's increased like anxiety, loneliness within both genders, like low mood, stress, all those things are linked to that lack of community. And then I think before that, it's just natural burnout. I think we live in again a quite individualistic society It's like dog eat dog, and that gets tiring. Again, living in London, you're gonna have a natural chip on your shoulder, and that's like, even if I can walk in here at 9 a.m. If somebody looks at me funny, it's like there was a threat, because it might genuinely be a threat, and that's tiring. To live in fight or flight every single day is very tiring. When I speak with a lot of young people, like, and they're talking about their commute to their home being anxiety provoking, that's not right or not. But it's normal, that's it. We have you work for it. Whether it's North London, South London, West London, East London, like that's a big thing. But that's for the youth. I think for adults, it might be financial pressure. Because when you look at mortgage rates or like housing prices in comparison to salary, like, we're trying to make something that doesn't make sense make sense. It doesn't. doesn't.
The average salary is about 30. What?
My parents bought the house that we currently live in for like 90 to 100. It's worth 4 times that now. Whilst their salary change, like the salary change in between that is minimal. And yeah, we're gonna struggle in this UK, like not even to speed that into existence. It's just, that's the current climate.
Our planet. Yeah.
So I think, all those things wrapped into one. Again, nuclear family. I think the importance of the nuclear family are not to be undermined. Like having 2 parents that are there for you.
Yeah.
That are, again, like I was listening to a podcast recently, and it's not even just the longevity of their relationship. It's also the satisfaction that they get within their relationship. Because research has been showing, like, once you are satisfied, what you pour out to the world is going to be like more positive, like simply like that. And there is not a lot of positivity.
It's important that men and women understand the importance of a nuclear family, how it doesn't just lead in terms of help the economic to grow in a country, but it also help that to breed a healthy generation, a healthy younger generation, when they can see a mother and father. Because it doesn't just affect financially, it affects children mentally. Especially in our community, there's a lot of single mothers. It's something that really pains me when I hear that. And one terms that I absolutely detest is baby mama. That word is just but yeah, it's very important that we construct that nuclear family to help really advise our brothers and all of around us, people around us, that marriage is important, pushing that narrative. Because it seems like with such an individualistic society, community has been kind of put aside. It's just about me, survive me. Now we need to realize, to bring back people together, really understand the long-term effect of it. In terms of, obviously, in your work field, what are the guidelines? Obviously, for me, you being a Christian, it's a relationship. It's something that you embodied. It's like you can't hide it.
Yeah.
How do you cope in terms of sharing your faith to people around you in your field? And do you ever had that urge in terms of doing that, if so?
So with colleagues, it's easy because we have so many reflective spaces. We speak about EDI all the time. Like there are always conversations around spirituality actually in the workplace and things like that. So with that part, it's not, I wouldn't say I've ever had to hide it. If somebody asks me who I serve, it is like, is it that easy? I think within therapeutic relationship is where it's interesting, because I am a yapper, but I'm a therapist. So that means I need to be a better listener. So it's actually not about what I say so much, but of course, like because within like our assessment for religion is actually a question. And if a young person is Christian, I might ask them, like, how does your faith impact like some of the things you're going through? They are young, but it's always a good conversation.
Yeah.
And that opens the floor, because then if they ask me,
Yeah.
I'm definitely allowed to disclose. But if I go from a space of look what's in the Bible, our session, like,
Our profession.
yeah, I'm professional. I think NHS is quite neutral in this stance of a lot of things. As you said, this country is quite self-defense, all over America.
Yeah. So, but if someone's open the window in a sense, like ask you an advice.
Yeah.
You're allowed to.
Yeah. I believe I'm allowed to. And if not, maybe I shouldn't lose my job by now. But of course, like it's on a case by case basis. Again, like I will only do that with like the young person. We're building up young person's boundaries as well.
Okay.
It's not something like I would, what's that word? Overstep my mark. I'll allow them to ask questions. I would give them questions, answers, or make suggestions potentially. But it will never be a thing where I say, I think you should, go on a 3-day fast for this shit. Yeah. And I think you see when Jesus spoke about that, the greatest command about loving your neighbor, I think doesn't matter what religion or place, culture you're from. I think that's always going to be like the foundation of my work as a therapist. And I've like literally with certain results. This was funny because I supported like parents who were struggling to get their child into school, right? And at the end of our intervention, child was go to school, everything good, like new person. And the guy said in his reviews like, oh, I can't, like AJ was our savior in this circuit sauce. And I said, okay, God, like I hear that, it was good, but like the light that you've placed like in me, like obviously all glory to God, I'm nobody's savior, but like it's all here in regards to like even the levels of depth, because I had to, like there are things I've done, not I would say outside of my job description there, but like when you're going the extra mile for clients and things like that, that's really important.
I think there's a verse that where Jesus talking about is saying basically let your character speak of who you are, and it will be much more easier when Christ is reflected by the way you treat people.
Yeah.
Than just trying to preach, oh, believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Jesus good. But your character, the personality, how you treat people reflect the love of Christ. It's much more easier someone to understand, to maybe ask, okay, what do you do? Like, what do you believe? Do you know what I mean? It's much more easier to bring someone to Christ and understanding, okay, if this person's a Christian and this how they're treating me, so I want to maybe understand the values much more better.
Yeah. You'll be known by your fruits. And I think again, linking that to like my colleagues who probably see me the most at work, like they'll always say, oh, why are you always happy? Why are you always so calm and peaceful? And like when that question is asked, I say it's not you and me. Like it's what? Like because my bank account isn't peaceful. That's not peaceful. In my love life, even peaceful. Like it is not, but like there is just a be still know that I'm good. Like there's a refuge, there's a safe space, there's a rest in him that respectfully the world doesn't.
Now, I really appreciate that
Experience.
So this question, I really wanted to, have you ever worked with someone that you can see the challenge that they're facing? It's more than just a mental issue, or require more than a therapeutic advice or anything. That's to a point that you can sense maybe by the inspiration of the Holy Spirit becoming something more spiritual. And how would you deal with that?
Occasionally, like when I'm led to, I do pray for that wisdom in regards to certain cases. I think on a practical level, I've had to step up quite, like, because I'm mild to moderate mental health difficulties, so anxiety, low mood, stress, things of that nature, ADHD, autism. So I've had to like signpost elsewhere if something is literally just outside of my practicality. But I think that is something I do struggle with within this role, because again, I'm a savior. If somebody's living conditions isn't like conducive to their mental health, I actually can't change that situation. Okay. And that leaves me painful, like a painful place sometimes. Like I've left work wanting to become an MP, because it's like I know a lot of systemic things that can support people's mental health, but again, London, overpopulation is another thing. A majority of cases I work with, they might not even have their own bedroom. Like wow, like they might be sharing with more than one sibling. Things of that nature are so normalized. Like just get on with it. But like having those spaces actually like really beneficial for growing up.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's autonomy, responsibility, privacy. Again, a lot of people are going through puberty at that age and things of that nature. So I think Holy Spirit wise, pray of course, like, and sometimes that might allow me to, you know, be in contact with the right person more than anything, because again, within the system, it's so easy to get lost. But like just knocking on that door and being an advocate more than anything, similar way Holy Spirit is an advocate for us. So it's just being Christ-like, but just within the space.
What age bracket do you usually
Yeah.
are usually your patient?
I'd say 7 to whatever. So I do like most kids, like 7 upwards, 8 upwards kids wise, but I also like work with parents and teachers.
Okay.
So I guess their difficulties are slightly different, but I work with them as well.
How do you deal with them separately?
So depending on the case, like I might work with a parent to support a young person, because like you can give kids all this information, all this like this theory and stuff, but they don't know how to apply it. So it's better to give it to a parent so they can also use it on their other kids as well.
Is it any particular struggle would you say young people are facing in this current climate? Then
There's so many. Ones that stick out to me is actually individuality.
okay.
And I say that because like a lot of schools have become academies, a lot of like because of like the behavior and antisocial behavior within London, things like that, schools have become militant. So like there are clear like behavioral structures that like if a kid drops a pen, they might actually get like a warning for that.
No
Like
way.
in certain schools, yeah. In certain schools, yeah. Sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah, there is a level of like they are anxious because they don't want to make an error. They don't want to make a mistake.
That's very unhealthy, because you need to allow people to make mistake, but it's just depending how they react to it.
Yeah. Like I think when we were in school, like there was a relationship between you and teacher a lot more. Now it's still there, but like the way behavior policies are enforced, especially in like academies, it can be quite difficult for like young people to navigate. And even within my sessions, I try not to normalize like things that aren't right. But I think that's a big struggle. Social media, like that. Too many voices.
Yeah.
Like Randy Orton, I hear voices in my head. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like way too many voices, way too many opinions, and it's actually clouding them. They're hearing conversations from like people our age that doesn't relate to them right now, but they're good. And that's the thing. You see, like it says faith comes by hearing. There is something powerful about what you listen to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there, like when you hear certain things, like even when somebody might tell you something, right, you kind of perceive it as a fact because like that's just the way how our brain works. And young people hear the same thing. You had the conversation about who should pay on the first date. Like that's such a boring and long conversation, but through each opinion that they hear, they're going to be influenced. There is just something so powerful about social media and how it's used, and like doom scrolling and what they're exposed to, and didn't even say pornography.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like
That's a big
one.
Big one. It's not. In fact, it's not even consumed the way that in our time was consumed. It take like just a quick access to social media, all the platforms.
Yeah.
Exposing you to so many pornographic image that sometimes you even become desensitized to these elements. And but yeah, I think the social media is a very, very, very a tough one, because I watched one of your most I love that video. You were talking, it's Men Don't Talk.
Okay. I'm good.
I love that. I'm good. I love that, because the level of pressure that we face, obviously, men and women have a completely different type of expectation. We are expected to provide, and there's so much expected from you, from society, and also from just relationship and just in general. And how do you think is the same thing that these kids are facing also at that age?
Yeah. Oh, their one's even worse.
Even worse.
Like I'm seeing 14 to 16-year-olds thinking about holidays for their birthday. Like that's the space we're at, because it's all about like showing
Image.
that, yeah, image. Oh yeah, I can do this, I've got that. Like there are some good things that have come from it. So like I do an intervention where I speak with like predominantly like African and Caribbean young people. And some people are like, they've got businesses, they've got nail businesses, reselling. So that aspect is creating that entrepreneurial spirit, and that's legal. They're learning transferable skills. So that's actually a good thing. So there is positives and negatives, because in that same breath, somebody will look at that young person making all that money and be like, but what am I doing? Lower self-esteem. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Most definitely. So what do you think about mental health conversation in the Christian community? How is it going? What, based on your experience?
Definitely improved.
Okay. Why?
Definitely improved, because I think people have, like, you hear this analogy all the time. If you're physically ill, you go to a doctor, you still pray, like, but you'd go to a doctor if you broke a leg.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same way. If there's something not correct, or if you're feeling something within your mind, like, it's okay to seek certain professionals like for that. And I think we've just been a bit more open. I think it was quite demonized before. Like, you have depression, die. Like so like, I'm not going to ever neglect the power of prayer, because there is a richness in that. There isn't, like, how many times in the Bible does it say do not be afraid? I don't know, but like
360 times.
So there's like there is a clear like instruction around fear, because it's always going to happen. There is always going to be uncertainty in life, and like navigating that will be hard. And sometimes you do need to pray, but sometimes you also do need to bounce ideas off another person. There is like nothing wrong with that, and I think we have become way more open to that, where there's Christian counselors, there's Christian therapists, even within like some pastors' meetings with young people, like it might, or with members of their congregation, it might be around well-being and how they're doing. So I think it's less demonized. There's been more open conversations. We're still learning the balance. Because again, I work within the mental health department, and now everybody thinks they've got ADHD, for example. Oh yeah, I can't concentrate. Maybe it's because you've been on your phone for that. Yeah, but navigating that I think it's definitely improved. Definitely improved. Yeah.
Okay. So do you think, because I strongly believe there's a normal fear which is played in every human being in terms of an instinct of survival, right? That's a healthy fear you need to have.
Yeah.
In order for you to be successful, in order for you to just achieve certain things. But there's also the negative fear that you disqualify yourself. Just think that, oh, I'm not good enough. Thing just based on your experience. But I think it's very important as Christian, because God calls us to be at the forefront of innovations in everything that we do. Because if you really think about it, Christian, we do not just have the capacity, natural capacity, but we have a helper, which is also the Holy Spirit. And I think sometimes previously Christian wanted just to, there was this mindset of God is coming now, so let's just do everything and just leave everything on earth. Jesus, before he ascended, it says, I'm going in. It told us to occupy the earth, to occupy. That means we need to be at the forefront of everything, but to also be able to discern between natural thing and what one also requires spirituality. So there should be a balance in that element. But also I think there's a cultural part that's will play with that, because mental therapy, or this form of therapy, is very much a Western format of how people help themselves to come out of situation. And is there any other form of therapeutic method that you've seen maybe effective to people around you than just what we call tradition in terms of yes?
Yeah, no, I think that's very interesting in regards to like, I think back home, like where people might be like underneath like the poverty line, or even here, like therapy would be helpful. Because if you're not, like, respectfully, if you're on, like, you need a certain platform to like to be able to really benefit from it. If your physical needs aren't being met, like there is only so much that can be done. But I'm part of, again, quite a diverse trust. So we've been trained in something called Tree of Life, which was actually made in Zimbabwe, and it was for young people that were orphans, young people that had maybe had sexually transmitted diseases, maybe grew up in conflict and war, and it was just to remind them of their strengths and their identity, and that has been quite like we received like we received so many awards for it within like City and Hackney, because like it's really increasing their self-esteem and their identity. And that's not a normal, that's what you would call like a narrative therapy rather than like a self-help or something CBT based. So I've seen that's really helpful. But I think on a practical level, like we really just systemically, whether it's family, whether it's time within your day, weekend, within like the Western, that is literally two ends of the spectrum in that regard.
About the hustle culture, how would you advise men in terms of slowing down to be able to recharge and also to thrive for their, you know, goals and things like that?
As a man, that I guess sometimes I try my best not to lean into it, but like, boy, it's hard not to. But I guess my advice to, again, it links to God and just trusting. I think our perception of time is really interesting as well. I'm 27. I wonder what percentage that is of my life. Like when we think of, like I went to my grandma's 100th birthday. My great grandma, 100. Wow. And she was still here, like mentally as well. But if I reach 100, that means I'm only 27% of the way there.
I should put in perspectives. Very interesting because I'm 28, turned 28 this year. So yeah, there's so much you're like 28, like my back, I feel there, but I'm still very much young. And the pressure of, having this by this age, and this, something that most men bought into.
Ask yourself, where does that pressure come from? So again, like even when you're asking for tips from, like I started to remove that pressure, because it's not about when it gets done, it's about how it gets done. Like I think we just want everything so fast, but good things take time. As I said, I'm working on a community called Respect the Process. It's because, again, when I used to gamble, it's because I didn't want to do fraud. I really but I was still under the pressure of I need money and I need it fast. But like, as fast as it comes is as fast as it goes. There's something, time allows you to understand value sometimes. And like going through the process, everyone says trust the process. That's why I'm saying respect the process, because a lot of the time we know what to do, but it's about just doing it every day and understanding what we are learning through it, whether it's that endurance, whether it's that suffering, whether it's that wisdom. Again, every mistake is like a blessing in disguise.
It's very tough to respect the process, because and when your eyes is also looking elsewhere, you're saying this person has achieved this one has achieved this, and the social pressure as a man, as much as sometimes you want to just focus on you, that's very challenging. Yeah, but I think that's why you also need a communities of men and people that are older than you. Those are mentors. I think it's really underestimated to have a mentor in every area of your life. I think it's very important, even spiritually, financially, in terms of relationship. There's a cultural element that Congolese people have. When you married, they give you what we call parrain, which is in French, but it's like someone who will, beside your pastor, but a counselor, someone in the church or someone that close, they will guide you through out, maybe through even just be intimate. They could even teach you about that. They can, when you're having your arguing, they like the third party, they deal with that situation. So I think it's very important to have mentors around you to help you really navigate life. We can very underestimate.
And I think even going off what you said around like somebody getting to somewhere before you, if that was your journey, you would have been there. And I think that is the one thing about like the future. We've already trying to live in it when the present is happening now. I think there was a period in my life where I was really like, again, this is from prophecies, this is from own desires. Like you see it, but you're not there yet. That gap between like the place you want to be in and where you are, that space there is really important in regards to like how you feel like literally how you feel right like every day. Like right now I want to become a clinical psychologist. I'm not there yet. Does that mean because I'm not there I need to wallow in like suffering? Just because somebody else is there, use that as inspiration to show that you can do it too, rather than, oh, they got there before me. Look at like shame versus inspirations or you bought.
I think that's a natural reaction as human being.
Yep.
But how you filter that through the word of God, to filter that really, because one thing that I've learned is not to really trust myself, because I know, bro, naturally I am messed up. I cannot trust this person. I can't trust it, because allowing myself, just giving myself an inch of purse or something out, you'll go to an extent that I'll regret. So I think the importance of, even with that, even if you're not a religious person, that's you're listening to it, even if you're not religious, I think you might not be a Christian, but it's important. The principle of religion are very vital. That's what you see. Countries that have influenced the world, despite of being doing it wrong way or right way, there's always those principles that's the Christian or Islamic principle that's applied, that's led it to success. So it's important to really allow our voices, preferably Jesus' voice, for you to, to humble yourself and to be able to go through that situation. I think this is really what I wanted to ask you. As Christians, as the Christian community are becoming more aware of mental health, and perhaps there might be a church in that may see this, how would you advise them in terms of building a mental health department to help the congregation people?
Okay, that's a very good question. I think firstly, like from a space of just understanding the needs of your church, because mental health is such a big word. It could be again neurodiversity, whether it's ADHD, autism, things of that nature. Could be again the standard anxiety, low mood, stress, and things of that nature. So one, understanding the needs of your church and what's required. I think the second part is actually having professionals within the church, or even if you have to externally allow people to support the church. I think that's important. And hopefully they can be consistent as well. So there's like a level of familiarity and comfortability when speaking to them. I think the third one is actually like confidentiality, like, and respecting like people's boundaries and respecting people's information and data. Because I think growing up in church, that it's the one space that you should feel safe.
Yes.
And I think that's why a lot of people have strayed, because like when you were speaking earlier about church and like how your pastor supported you. Honestly, when church is done right, it's the most beautiful thing. It's awesome. But again, it goes back to that humility, because people can be great, man. We've seen Salah, but we've seen David, we've seen Martin. They all got their own imperfections. And it's, again, just that constant humility to understand that I can mess up. I can be envious, I can be jealous, I can make mistakes. But going back to your question, sorry, confidentiality is also very important. And having like, I think, clear structure and policies around it as well. So it's like whether it's self-referrals, whether it's the waiting list, the waiting time, things of that nature.
What do you think is state of men's mental health
At this point, what do I think about the state of it? I think we spoke about this a bit earlier in regards to expectations of a man. I think as time has progressed, like certain things have changed. Like provision isn't like with the rise of like women being able to work, women having access to more things, and women being more educated. I think this is another reason why there's been a decline on marriage, because people feel like they don't need a partner as much. People are able to do things independently, and I think that's left certain men in a quite a difficult position, because it's like, where do you place your value? Because growing up, it was cool. I provide for my family. Good. Like, that's literally it.
Do you think he has challenged us as men to be more diverse in a way that would provide yes than just one point?
I think it's going to make us better human beings.
Yeah.
So provision is like, and I hear women say this all the time. Like, I think women have actually, even they're actually not all, but like, and again, let me just, like, some women have actually switched the lens where, cool, provision is still a part of it, but there are different ways to do it. Of course, financially is always going to be important. Like, I understand that, but like, emotionally, how are you there to support? Mentally, how are you there to listen to actively and actually care about the things that I'm saying? Physically, how can you support me? Like, things of that nature, like, they do care about. And before, we might not have focused on it. It's like, I'm bringing bread to the table, that's it. You can say, you can actually shut up. Like, but now, I think it's a lot more wholesome in its approach. But again, there are some people that still, respect the traditional values in that, and some people's actually just not feasible. So they've had to, look for other ways. But that's left with certain men, because you're trying to fit like something round and something square, and like, it's not, it's not fitted, and it's leading certain mental, that low self-esteem, low sense of self-worth, that loneliness, that depression, the alcoholism, anxiety, because it's like it's just that feeling of not being enough, essentially. But again, your value shouldn't. This is something again, because I'm not poor, but I'm not rich. But your money can't be the place where you get your value from.
Yeah, no, definitely I have to agree. But I think with the social norms are changing, I think it's important for us to be adaptable. That's one skill set you really need to flourish. It's not even about a level of education, it's about how you adapt in your environment. I think a lot of women talks about emotion intelligence. Yeah, it's extremely important. So I don't really, because I see a lot of men with the uprise of Andrew Tate and Red Pill's community.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
They've capitalized on the vulnerability of men lacking father figures and really know how to navigate through this change.
Lacking belief.
Yes. Yeah.
Belief. Like, there's one thing a father figure can support you with, is you actually believe you can do it. But again, a lot of those people, it's hope as well. And then it shifts the blame from, okay, maybe I can work on this, or I can even shift maybe the type of people that I go for. But it goes to, oh, it's all her fault. Oh, she doesn't make that. Like, it's yeah.
I think men, we are called to leadership, but the way we lead perhaps may change. But we should be the driving force of how a woman think, not necessarily forcing it, but what we value will naturally breed the response in terms of what we're getting in the market, even what women value. Because if we are exposing, say, okay, I have these cars, I have this, and that, naturally you're gonna breed a certain type of woman that's only catered to this kind. And when you see the results, and then now you're just playing, listen, women have their own business to be dealing with, for our focus in men. But I think accountability as community of men is very important. What we are putting out there and what we're allowing women to,
Yeah, I think how you lead is important. Like, Jesus led through like love. He wasn't like just straight faced. Like, he was a man of emotion, and he understood like the atmospheres and the climates he was walking into. There's some research done by a lady called Brené Brown, that she speaks about leadership, vulnerability being a power, like something that's powerful rather than something that's weak, because of our perception of it. And like, she speaks to a lot of leaders saying that they should lead with their vulnerability. And there was something. Oh, my brain has just left. It's just left my brain. But there was something really profound. Okay, there it is. When we feel like anxious and when we feel brave, it's a very similar feeling, but our perception of it is different. Like, brave, like being anxious and like being scared, and being brave and courageous, like It's just with one that you sit under it, with the other one you overcome it. It's really, really, really profound.
Wow. Okay. No, that's very good. But yeah, I think it's important, to have voices like yourself. No, it's very important. One thing really led me to even commit myself to Christ more. It was I don't even know about Nahi. Yeah, I watched one of his video and it was tipping about giving life, like the same message that he used to preach in the pulpit by older person. But I'd never really, it never be 2% in it. But when I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, I can see myself, okay. And by seeing that had a massive influence in me and made a total change from there. I decided from there, change my life. So it's very important to see, young men like you and that are helping, be the voice of this generation.